Hello and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art. Today I'm going to try one of those reading wrap-up things. Um, it feels like it's been a while. I've read about 1 billion books since half of forever ago. So what I want to do is just mention a couple that I've read over the last week or two that I've really enjoyed, and a couple I did for Garbology that I'll add to the list I had previously. Let's go ahead and see what I read. Another book I picked up because it was Garbology. I don't think I would have called it garbage literature, but it's called I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. And it's the story of a young man, he's a teenager named John Wayne Cleaver. And with that kind of a name, you'd maybe expect he would be a serial killer. But he is definitely, is it a sociopath? And his mom works at a funeral home, so he actually does help with prepping the bodies for burial and everything. But in the town he lives, dead bodies begin to turn up that have been gruesomely killed, and he thinks it might be a serial killer because he is obsessed with them. He feels like he could be one, but he's doing his best to not become a serial killer. What I enjoy about this book is that it starts out with like a kind of a typical thriller mystery vibe with a very interesting protagonist, and then about 6 or 7 chapters in or so it really takes a turn, and it's just delightful. Be careful about what you read because some people have included spoilers in the book description, and they've used some hashtags as well that kind of give away some of the plots, which is dumb. Don't spoil books for people, okay? That's just mean. But I really enjoyed it. It was a compelling mystery. It got very spooky towards the end. And the main character, John Cleaver, is a very compelling main character. That he walks this line between, being a sociopath and his this inner demon almost that wants to have him kill things and people, and he has a certain moral code that he's trying to stick to. And what happens as the mystery reveals itself is that his code is really tested and put to the test. It's just a fascinating look at this topic. I enjoy serial killer books for some reason. I'm not one, I swear. Seriously though, it just fascinates me. Whether it should or not, we can discuss that, but this is a great book. I believe I heard it from the Nerdy Narratives channel. She always gives good recommendations. I don't read every book she recommends, but the ones that I've chosen have just become big favorites. So this is the first book in a 6-book series. There's at least 6 books out right now, and it's one I read. And then the next one I want to talk about, I did read the Garbology short story collection, and that was just a lot of fun. I recognized some names there, some that I didn't. Got some good new channel recommendations through that. But it was a collection of really of amateur and newer authors who have included short stories that could be considered trash or garbage, but it covered the gamut of different types and styles. Personally, I didn't care for the smutty chapters too much. That's not really my cup of tea. But I did enjoy some of the more classic trash, if you will. The monsters and the ghouls and goblins and things. Although I've been a follower of Reading This Life with MJ from Reading This Life. She was so excited to get her first story published, and so that was a lot of fun to be able to read that and support MJ in that way. And that was one of the better stories I thought in the collection. Criminali, who hosts Garbology, he had a story included in there, and that one was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed his as well, and some really genuine creepy stories. So that was a fun read for August. And then to round out my Garbology reading, I read Married with Zombies by Jess Peterson. And this is a book that does exactly what the title says. if you like Shaun of the Dead and films like, Zombieland, this is a book right in that neighborhood. So you have a married couple who are on the brink of divorce. They've been seeing a marriage counselor. Things just aren't going well. And so they're on their way to the marriage counselor, but both of them have been looking at getting divorce lawyers and they think their marriage is over. So they walk into their therapist's office and she's not there. They look around for her. They find her in the counseling room eating the couple that she met with before them. And she has turned into a zombie. And from there, the book just does not look back. It's funny. It has serious moments. It has, pulse pounding moments of fear. Everything that I like in a zombie movie or a zombie story. I don't want just the senseless killing. I love the humor, and I love it when they use it also to speak profoundly about issues. And in this case, the author, she kind of weaves in marriage counseling advice in light of a zombie apocalypse. Kind of the couple that slays together stays together kind of vibe. So as weird as it sounds, that was a really fun read and might end up actually being one of my favorite reads of the year. It looks like it's a trilogy right now. I don't know if she had plans to write more or not. I think the sequel is called Flip This Zombie, and I'm actually going to read it probably next month, and then I'll read the third one in October just to kind of round out the books. I don't usually read books by the same author that quickly, but this one I think feels necessary. I'm really interested to see where the plot will go. So in the process of this zombie apocalypse, the main characters are working through their issues and starting to fall in love again. And it's a really, just a really great story. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it turned out to be better than it should have been. This is more of what I was expecting from last year's book that was a big disappointment to me, the Amish Vampires in Space. The title is hilarious, but the book, it's like takes it too seriously. Married with Zombies knows what it is, and it relishes in it. And there's humor, there's jokes, there's, like I said, there's scary moments and fun moments, good moments. It is fantastic. It had me towards the end of the book, I was simultaneously laughing and crying, kind of feel. So well done. Well, a really good book and a great way to end out Garbogist. And then so for maybe a palate cleanser of some literature, I read a book called Native Tongue by Suzette, Haden, Elgin. And I heard about this book on Nerdius's channel. He's doing the 100 most influential science fiction novels of the 20th century. Not necessarily the best, but the most influential. And I think I mentioned his list before, and I've really enjoyed seeing what he's coming up with because it does have a very diverse selection. It's not just the same, three old white guys. And there's been some good surprises on there. I've been slowly reading through because a lot of them I hadn't even heard of before. Anyway, Native Tongue, it's set place in the future. Women have lost all of their rights for just about everything. And they're basically seen as baby makers, and they need to produce children who are able to help communicate with aliens to help further the trade and business dealings with aliens. And so that's the kind of world it's set in. Think very much in the same neighborhood again as like the Handmaid's Tale, things like that. And in just the opening chapter, it had me so angry at their world that I almost, I would have thrown my Kindle across the room. I think what angered me is because I could see how, if we're not careful, our society could get to that point. There's the main character needs surgery for breast cancer. And there's men sitting around the table trying to decide whether or not she even needs this surgery. And if she does she really need the breast augmentation afterwards, because she's going to have a double mastectomy, So, they think, well, why bother replacing it? She's lost her usefulness. There's no need for them. She's not going to be able to bear children anymore because she needs a hysterectomy as well. So it's purely just, and so if it's done just for appearance sake, why bother spending the money on it? One of the men did point out how that the cost to replace and give her the appearance of normalcy is the same amount that they would pay for a wrist computer, which he pointed out how they bought 4 or 5 of them this past year alone. But everyone else was just like, yeah, let's not spend the money on that. We don't need to spend the money on that. And that's all just in the first chapter. And I'm like, wow, this book is going places. It was actually published back in 1984, and she's an author I'm not very familiar with. And there are 2 other books in the series or set in the world. I don't know if they carry the same characters or not, but a lot of it is not as action-packed as I normally would like science fiction, but it's very thoughtful. As we watch, we get the backstory of Nazareth's, the main character, her name is Nazareth, and we get her backstory, how she ended up being selected to be married and enter into this program and all that, and her gift with language. And underwriting this whole current, or this whole plot, the women who, especially those who have been discarded, they're sent, when they're done bearing children, they're sent to the barren house because they are no longer bearing children. And they've been working on developing a secret language that they can use to communicate with each other to, I think, to stage a rebellion. And that might be how the plots in the other 2 books will unfold, to see what they do with that language. But I thought, not only does it have a powerful statement about how we as men have treated women in the past, and what the logical conclusion of that could be if we're not careful in learning those lessons of the past. But also, I think it makes a powerful statement as to the power of language and the importance of, being informed and being able to communicate and being able to find words for things that you want to express. And then it got me thinking about how, back in the old days when we would enslave people and take advantage of cultures and groups and different, all the hate that went on, and how we tried to keep people uninformed and ignorant, and how that was had a crippling effect on them. This book kind of deals with that and dances around it a bit. So really, really profound book. Again, one of the most thought-provoking books I've read this year, and I am looking forward to reading the rest, the other 2 she's written. And she hasn't written a lot from what I could find. These 3 books and maybe 3 other fantasy novels, it looked like, and that was about it. But she's certainly been an overlooked author in my on my bookshelf. So a very quiet, thought-provoking science fiction book. A good antidote and balance to some of the trash I read in Garbology. And then also, just real quick, I finished reading The Plea by Steve Cavanagh, and it's a part of a series where that follows a lawyer. He used to be a con artist, but now he's become a lawyer, and he uses a lot of his con artist tricks to help his case and help investigate mysteries and that kind of thing. So it's like a legal drama with a fun twist to it. I read the first book in that series earlier this year, and then I think last year I read, actually, it was like book 4 or 5. I didn't realize it wasn't a standalone, and that one was called 13, I think. Yeah, 13. And it's a serial killer novel where the killer ends up on the jury of the crime he committed, but it was blamed on somebody else. If that am I making sense? So this guy is on trial for a crime he didn't commit. But the man who did commit the crime ends up on the jury, and he manages to manipulate his way onto the jury. That was a really good one. The first book in the series was excellent as well. This one I didn't enjoy quite as much. It felt kind of like too much of a copy of the first one. Like in the first one, his daughter is held hostage to try to get this crook off out in a crime that he committed. In the sequel, it's his ex-wife who's kind of in the same position, kind of the same stakes. Not that it was bad. It was just I like to see, like in the later book, that it does go more in a different direction. All right. Well, hopefully by the time this comes out, I'll have been able to bust out the pumpkin spice latte and enjoy some reading time out on the porch. Until next time, take care. Happy reading, everyone.